Right, welcome back. Let's take a look at our trending topics now, and here they are. First up, hashtag Paul Mashatile, and I suppose we can also weigh in there hashtag Jacob Zuma, because
Indeed.
it basically pertains to the same issue.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we had seen and Zweli Mkhize. I mean, I don't see his name trending. I see Paul Mashatile more on the trending list as well as Jacob Zuma. But Zweli Mkhize, the ANC KZN pronouncing its preferred leaders, and the leaders they are wanting is former Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize and Paul Mashatile. What they did do, however, was snubbed President Jacob Zuma, though, for what was it, the chairperson
national
position,
chairperson.
national chairperson position. So that wasn't something, and they also sort of snubbed President Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. So that's what KZN have put down as their preferred candidates.
It's an interesting one, and I think the reason why Mashatile is coming up is because he seems to be a bit of a front runner at this point for the deputy presidency. Coming up, it would seem, in various places on possible slates that could emerge. So Paul Mashatile seems to be putting in a strong showing as far as these nominations go at the moment. But of course, it's early days yet. And then Jacob Zuma, of course, the former president, as you said, some have viewed this as a snub by KZN because they didn't necessarily back whom he would necessarily perhaps would have referred. Listen to my wording.
Yes,
here.
I'm hearing, very carefully worded.
So, yes.
All of those little numbers in there, just to
Yeah.
make sure you get the point across.
So you understand.
Totally.
Allegedly,
apparently, so they say.
all of these things.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. But interestingly, yesterday, Gwede Mantashe at the COSATU Congress, where he was again prevented from speaking, he was asked about former President Jacob Zuma basically availing himself for that contest for the national chairperson's position, and that position currently held by Gwede Mantashe. And he said that was the joke of the century, that the 81-year-old Zuma would want to, be involved in that.
Can you believe
and
it?
That prompted me to go and look at what their ages are.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I have the ages in front of me.
Yeah,
because you're not the only one who prompted that research. Can I read them to you?
Please
because
do.
They're sitting in front of us if we've got time. So I've got this one because somebody else went ahead and sort of thought the same thing. Here are their ages. So Zweli Mkhize is 66 years old. Lindiwe Sisulu, 68. David Mabuza, 62. Paul Mashatile is 60. And Ace Magashule is 62. Then Cyril Ramaphosa, president, is 70 years old. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is 75 years old. And then, of course, Jacob Zuma, 81 years old.
I think Lindiwe Sisulu I also checked.
Did you check that too? What
Yeah. She was
68.
68.
Yeah, Lindiwe is on the list as well, 68 years old. So anyway, there's your ages.
That's interesting. They're all pensioners.
No, Paul Mashatile is not. What is pension? 60 or 65? 60.
At what point do you start drawing SASA grants? 60.
60. We'll know. Is it 60? What's it? 60.
60.
So they are.
Just saying.
Let's look at the next trend.
That's a useless, by the way, conversation.
It is, but it does speak volumes, though. Let's move on to pit bulls, because this is another story that, there are so many incidences, and we see this one trending once again. And why? Well, a pit bull in a 10-year-old Galvindale boy was mauled to death by the family's two pit bulls at his house. And this is a devastating story. This was in Gqeberha. They were saying that according to the police, it's alleged that around 1:15 in the afternoon, police were alerted to the incident, and on arrival, they shot both of the dogs inside the house. Well, obviously, I mean, once that's happened, you can only imagine. It's further alleged that the deceased and two other children were in the house with the dogs. They say it's unclear at this stage what happened when the two dogs turned on the boy, but he has succumbed to his injuries, and police were forced to shoot those dogs. There are just so many incidences, and it's opened up a great debate. Again, are pit bulls friendly to be pets? And this is the story. If you'd like to write to us, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, do you have a pit bull? I know people with pit bulls, and they love them. They really do. But the amount of stories that you hear of pit bulls that turn on their owners or people that are walking past the house, or joggers, or their kids, or it's just, for me, very, very a worrying thing. And this has been for years. But you talk to us. What do you feel? This is just the latest in, unfortunately, quite a few incidents.
But how many of these incidents do we have to report on?
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do people start to think about this in, a more, I don't want to say compassionate, but in a different way?
Yeah.
Because for me, just having read that people have been mauled, children have been mauled, that's enough to put me off.
Oh, totally. And that
completely.
Yeah. I don't know. I have strong views on it, but I leave it to the viewers to write in. We'd love to hear from you. All right.
Yeah.
Our next trending topic is
Jagersfontein
in the news. I mean, I'm going to quickly, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal this one because you know the McFlurry one. And McFlurry one, I got a bit lost in people buying ice creams for everyone. But anyway, let me find this. So we know about this. It's in our news, and basically what's happened is another mine dam wall has collapsed at the Jagersfontein mine in the Free State. That's insane. The dam released water into the neighborhood of Charlesville and nearby farmland late yesterday, and the flow of water has since stopped. There's then no reported deaths or loss of lives from this one, or not too much damage has been reported, but still unacceptable.
I don't think this has been scrutinized sufficiently. I said this, I remember a few weeks ago when this happened, and again, maybe this will actually force us to look at this a little more closely. But that's the latest in the Jagersfontein situation. And the final one,
McFlurry.
Hashtag McFlurry.
What's happening here now?
McFlurry. You know McFlurry from McDonald's?
Yeah, of course. Your Oreos.
So there's a
and
guy,
and
and some girl asked him, whether what he'd like. Is a McFlurry? And she asked what flavor, his caramel.
Yeah.
And she got him a McFlurry and chicken McNuggets, and she delivered it to him.
Oh,
and
really?
he posted it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that started a whole thing because people were like, oh, it's so nice to know that women can also buy stuff for guys. And so many guys were like, oh, how come nobody's asking me, whether I'd like a McFlurry?
So she fancied this guy, or she just thought, well,
I don't know what the situation is with that relation or situationship, but she did that for him, and he was very appreciative.
Well, I'm sure he was very appreciative. A home delivery of a McFlurry. But I think he had a girlfriend. I mean, I know that was. You see, that's where I got lost. I thought it was sweet until the girlfriend came into it.
Listen, I know nothing of that
keep
gossip.
It innocent.
I leave it at the point where the McFlurry was delivered. What happens beyond that, I don't know.
Not your problem.